The vast emptiness of space stretched before the USS Horizon as it glided through the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. The ship was on a routine patrol mission, checking the network of early warning beacons that humanity had placed throughout the outer solar system. Captain Olivia Martinez sat in her command chair, reviewing reports from the various departments. At 43, she was one of the most experienced captains in Earth's still young space fleet. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her uniform bore the marks of someone who had earned her position through hard work rather than connections. "Another quiet day," she said, accepting a tablet from her executive officer, Commander Frank Wilson. "That's how we like it out here, Captain," Wilson replied with a smile. He was a tall man with kind eyes that contrasted with his military bearing. The bridge of the Horizon was efficient but comfortable. Earth had learned long ago that humans performed better in space when their surroundings felt somewhat like home. Plants grew in carefully placed containers, and the lighting mimicked Earth's natural cycle. Lieutenant Paul Wright, the communications officer, suddenly straightened in his chair. His fingers moved quickly across his console as he adjusted settings. "And confirmed readings, Captain," he called out, his voice steady but urgent. "I'm picking up an unusual signal." Martinez turned her chair toward his station. "Natural phenomenon?" "No, ma'am. Definitely artificial. But it's not matching any known human broadcast patterns." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this might mean. Humanity had been searching the stars for signs of intelligent life for centuries. There had been promising hints before, but nothing definitive. "Put it through the speakers," Martinez ordered. A strange, pulsing sound filled the bridge. It had a clear pattern, 3 short bursts, followed by 2 longer ones, repeating consistently. "It's coming from beyond Neptune's orbit, about half a light day from our position," Wright said. "And it's powerful. Whatever's generating this signal has some serious equipment." Martinez stood up and walked to the communications station. "Is it directed at us specifically?" "No, Captain. It appears to be a broad-spectrum broadcast, almost like a distress call." Martinez finished his thought. She turned to the navigation officer, Lieutenant Samantha Rogers. "Plot an intercept course. Let's find out who's calling for help." "Yes, Captain," Rogers replied, her fingers already dancing across her console. "All departments prepare for potential first contact protocol," Martinez announced shipwide. "This is not a drill." The Horizon changed course, its powerful engines pushing it toward the mysterious signal. The crew worked with practiced efficiency, but an undercurrent of excitement ran through the ship. They might be about to make history. As they approached the source of the signal, the ship's sensors began to pick up more details. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple large objects ahead," said the sensor officer, Ensign Kyle Bennett. His young face was a mix of awe and disbelief as he studied his readings. "Many large objects, very large." "How many are we talking about, Ensign?" Martinez asked. Bennett swallowed hard. "Current count is 287 objects, ranging from 1 to 5 kilometers in length." A stunned silence fell. "Over the bridge, that can't be right," Wilson said. "Run a diagnostic." "Already did, sir. Twice." "These readings are accurate." Martinez leaned over the sensor station, studying the data herself. "Those aren't asteroids or natural formations, those are ships." The main view screen activated, showing the first visual images of what lay ahead. Even from a distance, the scale was breathtaking. Hundreds of massive vessels formed a loose cluster in space. Their designs were unlike anything built by human hands, elegant curves and geometric patterns that seemed to blend organic and mechanical elements. "My God," someone whispered. "Open a channel," Martinez ordered. "All frequencies, universal greeting protocol." Wright worked his console. "Channel open, Captain." Martinez took a deep breath. "This is Captain Olivia Martinez of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. We have received your signal and are offering assistance. Please respond." For several long moments there was only silence. Then the view screen flickered, and an image appeared. Todito, being on the screen, had a humanoid shape, but its skin was a pale blue color with faint lighter patterns across the face. Its eyes were large and golden with vertical pupils. What might have been hair was actually a crown of small, tentacle-like appendages that moved slightly as if floating in water. "I am Admiral Kulvaran of the Tellurian Armada," the alien said, its mouth moving in ways that didn't quite match the words. Some kind of translation system was at work. "Your assistance is unexpected." Martinez managed to keep her composure despite the shock of seeing an actual alien for the first time. "We received what appeared to be a distress signal. Are you in need of help?" The alien admiral seemed to hesitate before responding. "Yes, we are in grave danger. Our fleet carries over 2 million of my people. We are refugees, seeking a new home after our star began to die. We attempted to use an experimental drive system to cross a great distance, but we miscalculated. We are now stranded with failing power systems. Within days, life support will begin to fail throughout our fleet." Martinez heard gasps around the bridge. 2 million lives at risk. "What kind of assistance do you need?" she asked. "Our power generation systems are damaged. We cannot restart them without external energy sources. We had hoped to reach a system with a young, energetic star, but instead we emerged here, far from suitable stellar bodies." Martinez nodded. "We will contact Earth immediately and coordinate a response. Please send us your technical specifications so our engineers can assess how we might help." "You misunderstand," Admiral Kulvaran said. His tone was resigned, almost pitying. "We know of your civilization. You are barely space-capable by galactic standards. We sent out our distress call hoping perhaps you might save some of our children before the end. We do not expect you to save our entire fleet." Martinez straightened her back. "With respect, Admiral, I suggest you don't underestimate humans. We're going to need those technical specifications." The alien studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, though I fear it will only confirm what I have said." After the transmission ended, Martinez turned to write. "Send everything we have to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need every available ship and resource out here. Immediately." "Yes, Captain," Wright said, already sending the message. Martinez looked back at the screen showing the enormous alien fleet. "And get Chief Engineer Baker up here. We need to start figuring out how to save 2 million lives." As the horizon moved closer to the massive alien vessels, the crew worked with renewed purpose. They might be humanity's first ambassadors to an alien civilization, if they could find a way to prevent an unprecedented tragedy. No one on the ship realized it yet, but this moment would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. News of the stranded alien fleet spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of Captain Martinez's message reaching Earth Command, every television, phone, and computer displayed the same incredible images. Hundreds of massive alien ships, floating helplessly in the outer reaches of the solar system. Chief Engineer Alan Baker studied the alien technical specifications that had been transmitted to the USS Horizon. His office was cluttered with tablets displaying different sections of the Tellurian ship's systems. Coffee cups littered his desk, evidence of his sleepless work since first contact. Baker ran a hand through his graying hair and sighed. At 55, he had worked on some of humanity's most advanced spacecraft, but nothing prepared him for this. Captain Martinez entered his office. "Tell me you have good news, Alan." Baker gestured to the schematics floating on his holographic display. "Their technology is amazing, Captain. In many ways, it's centuries ahead of ours. But their power generation systems follow principles we understand. Can we help them?" "The problem isn't knowledge, it's scale," Baker explained. "They use a form of fusion that's similar to our newest reactors, but much more efficient. The issue is that they need an enormous amount of initial power to restart their systems. It would take every power plant on Earth running at maximum capacity to generate enough energy." Martinez frowned. "So we can't help them?" Baker smiled slightly. "I didn't say that. I've been talking with engineers back on Earth. We've got an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." He pulled up a new diagram showing a human fusion reactor modified with several unusual additions. "We can't generate enough power at once, but we can build specialized energy transfer systems. If we bring enough fusion reactors near their ships and modify them to work with Tellurian technology, we might be able to jumpstart their systems one ship at a time. Back on Earth, the response to the crisis was unprecedented. In Washington, the president addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. "The Tellurian people need our help," she said, her voice steady and determined. "This is no longer about nations or borders. This is about humanity stepping up to help our neighbors from the stars." Countries that had been political enemies for decades suddenly found themselves working together. Russian engineers collaborated with American scientists. Chinese manufacturing facilities began producing specialized equipment designed by European teams. Every space agency on Earth pooled their resources. Private space companies volunteered their entire fleets. Factories switched from making cars to producing components for emergency fusion reactors. Millions of people donated money, resources, or time to help with what became known as Operation Starlight Rescue. NASA engineer Sofia Garcia had become the unofficial leader of the Earth-based rescue effort. Her apartment was now an improvised command center, with screens showing work progress from around the globe. "We're approaching this differently than the Tellurians would," she explained during a video conference with engineers from 20 countries. "Their technology is built around permanent installations with redundant safety features. We don't have time for that. We need to build quick, dirty, and functional systems." She displayed a design for a modified fusion reactor. "It's not pretty, but it should work for a one-time power transfer. Each ship will need about 6 of these to restart their main systems." A Russian engineer raised his hand. "With 300 Tellurian ships, that means we need to build over 1,800 fusion transfer units in less than a week." "Exactly," Garcia said, "which is why we're distributing the manufacturing across the globe. No single country could do this alone." 7 days after first contact, the largest fleet in human history approached the stranded Tellurian Armada. Over 500 Earth vessels of various sizes formed a makeshift rescue flotilla. Military ships flew alongside converted civilian vessels. Every craft capable of space travel had been pressed into service, carrying fusion reactors, technical teams, and supplies. Aboard the Tellurian flagship, Admiral Kulvaran watched the approaching human fleet with growing amazement. He stood in the grand observation chamber surrounded by his senior officers. "How many ships are there?" he asked his second-in-command. "We count 512 human vessels," replied Sub-Commander Lirvax. "It appears they have mobilized their entire space fleet." The admiral shook his head in disbelief. "When Captain Martinez said they would help us, I thought perhaps they might save a few thousand of our children. I never imagined they would attempt to rescue our entire armada." "Their technology is primitive," Lirvax said. "Our analysis shows their vessels lack proper radiation shielding for extended space travel. Some appear to be nothing more than cargo haulers hastily converted for this mission." "And yet they came," the admiral said softly. "All of them." On the main Tellurian engineering deck, a team of human engineers led by Baker worked alongside alien technicians. The cultural and language barriers were challenging, but both sides were determined to succeed. No, Baker said, pointing to a connection point on the massive power distribution node. "We need to bypass this regulator system. It's designed for gradual power increase, but we're going to hit it with everything at once." The Tellurian chief, engineer, a tall, thin alien named Zivthal, made a warbling sound that the translation system interpreted as concern. "That violates safety protocols. The surge could damage secondary systems." "Better damaged systems than dead people," Baker replied. "We can repair the damage later, but right now we need to get your life support back online." After a moment, Zivthal nodded and began helping to modify the connection points. Outside the massive Tellurian flagship, dozens of human shuttles maneuvered the specialized fusion reactors into position. Each was essentially a controlled bomb of energy, designed to release its power in one massive burst directly into the alien ship systems. Captain Martinez coordinated the operation from the USS Horizon. "All teams report status." The communication system crackled as responses came in from across the fleet. "Team Alpha, reactors in position." "Team Bravo, Connection secure. Team Charlie, final checks complete. Martinez took a deep breath. Begin power transfer sequence on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. Throughout the Tellurian fleet, the human fusion reactors activated simultaneously. Energy surged through hastily constructed conduits and into the alien ship's systems. Lights flickered, then steadied. Systems that had been dormant hummed back to life. On the engineering deck of the flagship, Baker watched as displays changed, from red to green. "It's working," he shouted over the noise of awakening machinery. Zivthal stared at the readings in disbelief. "How? You bypassed 6 critical safety systems. You ignored fundamental engineering protocols." Baker grinned. "Sometimes you have to break the rules to get results." In the observation chamber, Admiral Kulvaran watched as lights returned to his fleet. One by one, the massive Tellurian ships came back online. Life support stabilized. Communication systems reactivated. Hope returned. "Impossible," the Admiral whispered. They did the impossible. As the power transfer operation continued across the fleet, humans and Tellurians worked side by side. Old barriers fell away in the face of shared purpose. The aliens began to see humans not as primitive beings, but as equals with different strengths. And humans, looking up at the stars that night, knew that they were no longer alone in the universe. The impossible rescue had just begun, but already it had changed everything. With power restored to the Tellurian fleet, a new phase of the operation began. The immediate crisis was over, but the alien ships needed more permanent repairs before they could continue their journey. Earth sent additional supplies and technical teams to assist, and the two species began to learn about each other. Commander Daniel Kelly led a team of 20 human engineers aboard the Tellurian science vessel, Astral Seeker. At 35, he had a reputation for solving difficult problems with creative thinking. His team was tasked with upgrading the ship's backup power systems. "This connection needs to be realigned," Kelly said, pointing to a glowing blue conduit. "The power flow is uneven." The Tellurian engineer working with him, a female named Nari Vesh, tilted her head in a gesture Kelly had learned meant confusion. "But our systems are designed to handle minor fluctuations," she said. "The official protocol states that realignment is only necessary if efficiency drops below 80%. Kelly smiled. "Sure, but why settle for 80% when we can get 95? Let me show you a trick we developed on deep space missions." Using a modified tool, Kelly adjusted the conduit alignment while the system was still running, something Tellurian engineers were taught never to do. The power readings immediately improved. Narivesh's golden eyes widened. "That's not in any manual I've studied." "Sometimes the best solutions aren't in manuals," Kelly replied. "Humans are pretty good at making things up as we go along." This scene was playing out across the Tellurian fleet as humans and aliens worked together. The Tellurians were masters of advanced technology and precise, methodical approaches. Humans brought creativity, improvisation, and a willingness to take calculated risks. Meanwhile, back on Earth, preparations were underway to potentially host millions of alien refugees if needed. Governments worked together to identify suitable, temporary settlement areas while the Tellurian fleet was repaired. In a small town in Colorado, Mayor Betty Collins addressed a community meeting in the high school gymnasium. Nearly everyone in town had shown up to hear about the possibility of hosting alien visitors. "The state government has asked if we would be willing to welcome up to 500 Tellurian refugees if their ships can't be fully repaired," she explained. "They would need temporary housing and assistance learning about our world." An older man stood up. "What do these aliens look like? Are they dangerous?" Collins displayed an image of a Tellurian on the projector screen. The crowd murmured at the sight of the blue-skinned, golden-eyed being. "According to the information we've received, they're peaceful refugees whose home star was dying," Collins said. "They're different from us, but they have families and children just like we do." A young woman raised her hand. "I have 3 empty bedrooms since my kids moved out. I'd be happy to host a family." One by one, more people volunteered. By the end of the meeting, the town had pledged to welcome all 500 potential refugees and more if needed. Similar scenes played out in communities across the globe. Despite knowing almost nothing about the Tellurians, humans opened their hearts and homes to the possibility of helping alien refugees. Aboard the Tellurian flagship, Admiral Colvaran met with Captain Martinez and other human leaders to discuss the next steps. The Admiral's private meeting chamber was spacious, with strange plants growing in floating spheres of liquid and walls that seemed to shift colors subtly. "Thanks to your people's assistance, our main systems are now stable," the Admiral said. "Our engineers believe we can complete the remaining repairs within 3 weeks." "We're glad to help," Martinez replied. "My government has asked me to extend an official invitation for your people to visit Earth if you wish. And if some of your ships can't be repaired fully, we're prepared to offer temporary homes for your people." The Admiral was silent for a moment. "Your offer is generous, Captain, but I must ask, why? We are strangers to you. In our experience, most species are protective of their home worlds." Martinez considered her answer carefully. "It's who we are, Admiral. Throughout our history, humans have often helped each other during disasters and crises. Not always, and not perfectly, but at our best. We try to help those in need. We don't see why that should change just because you come from another star." The Admiral made a gesture that his translator explained was a sign of deep respect. "Then your species is rare indeed in this galaxy." As the meeting ended, the Admiral invited the humans to join a cultural exchange event planned for that evening. "Our people wish to thank yours properly," he explained. That night, the great hall of the flagship was filled with hundreds of humans and Tellurians. The aliens had prepared a feast using synthesized foods that were safe for human consumption. Musicians from both species performed, creating strange but beautiful harmonies as they experimented with combining their different musical traditions. Kelly found himself speaking with a group of Tellurian scientists about Earth. They were particularly fascinated by human art and literature. "You create stories about imaginary beings and events?" asked one scientist named Jorval. "For what purpose?" "For fun," Kelly explained. "For entertainment, or to explore ideas and emotions." "And these movies you mentioned, you create entire false visual records of things that never happened?" Kelly laughed. "That's one way to look at it. We call it storytelling." The concept seemed to both confuse and intrigue the Tellurians. Their own culture valued precise recording of facts and experiences, not invention. Across the room, Captain Martinez was speaking with a Tellurian historian who was explaining their social structure. "Our society is organized into functional castes," the historian explained. "From birth, each Tellurian is assigned to a role based on their genetic predispositions: leadership, science, engineering, arts, or service." "So you don't choose your own path?" Martinez asked. "Why would one choose when science can determine where each person will excel?" The historian replied, genuinely puzzled. "Does not your species want each individual to succeed in their optimal function?" "We value personal choice," Martinez explained. "We believe people should pursue what makes them happy, even if they might be better at something else." The historian made notes on a small device. "Fascinating. Perhaps this explains your species' unusual adaptability and innovation." As the evening progressed, both species found more differences and surprising similarities. The Tellurians were shocked to learn that humans frequently disagreed with their leaders and had multiple competing governments. Humans were surprised by the Tellurians' extremely long lifespans and their unified planetary government. Yet despite these differences, connections formed. Human jokes were translated, often requiring explanation, but eventually earning trilling, sounds that served as Tellurian laughter. Tellurian music, initially strange to human ears, began to make emotional sense after repeated listening. Admiral Colvaran watched these interactions with growing interest. For thousands of years his people had encountered other spacefaring civilizations, but most kept to themselves, sharing technology and resources but rarely forming deep connections. These humans were different. They were curious, adaptable, and surprisingly open-hearted for such a young species. As he observed a human child showing a Tellurian child how to play a simple hand game, the Admiral wondered if perhaps his people's emergency had led them to discover something far more valuable than just a safe haven. They might have found true friends in the vastness of space. 3 weeks after the initial rescue operation began, the Tellurian fleet was ready to continue its journey. The repairs had been completed ahead of schedule, thanks to the combined efforts of human and Tellurian engineers working around the clock. Admiral Kulvaran stood in his command center, reviewing the final status reports. Every ship in his fleet was now operational, with power systems not only restored but improved using human modifications. What had seemed like an impossible situation just weeks ago had been transformed into a triumph of cooperation. The last engineering teams are returning to their vessels, reported Sub-Commander Lirvax. All ships report ready for departure. And the human delegation? Asked the Admiral. They await you in the Great Hall. The transmission system has been prepared as you requested. Admiral Kulvaran nodded. It is time then. In the Great Hall of the flagship, hundreds of humans had gathered. Captain Martinez, Commander Kelly, and representatives from Earth's government stood together, facing a large communication screen. The mood was both celebratory and somewhat sad, as many humans had formed friendships with the Tellurians they had worked alongside. Admiral Kulvaran entered the hall, accompanied by his senior officers. The assembled humans and Tellurians fell silent. People of Earth, the Admiral began, his voice carried by translators throughout the hall and transmitted back to Earth. We came to your solar system as desperate refugees with no hope. Our ships were failing. Our children were facing death. We sent out a distress call with little expectation of rescue. He paused, his golden eyes scanning the human faces before him. You could have ignored us. You could have taken advantage of our weakness. Instead, you gave everything to save us, strangers from the stars. Your entire world united to help us. We will never forget this. The Admiral made a gesture, and a Tellurian officer stepped forward carrying an ornate metal container. Before we depart, I wish to share something with humanity. In our 5,000 years of space travel, we have encountered dozens of advanced civilizations. We are part of what your translators call the Galactic Concord, a loose alliance of spacefaring species. A murmur ran through the human crowd. This was the first clear confirmation that many other intelligent species existed in the galaxy. What I tell you now may be difficult to hear, the Admiral continued. The Concord has known of Earth for over 300 of your years. We have observed your development from orbit and through automated probes. But official contact was forbidden. Captain, Martinez stepped forward. Forbidden? Why? Because the Concord Council judged your species too unpredictable, too divided, too violent for inclusion, the Admiral admitted. Your rapid technological development combined with your history of conflicts caused concern. The decision was made to observe but not interact until humanity had either destroyed itself or achieved greater unity. A tense silence fell over the hall. The Council was wrong, Admiral Kulvaran stated firmly. They saw only your divisions and conflicts. They missed your greatest strength, your remarkable capacity for compassion and innovation. When faced with a challenge, you do not simply follow established protocols. You create new solutions. When faced with strangers in need, you do not calculate advantage. You simply help. The Admiral opened the metal container. Inside was a small, crystalline device that glowed with an inner blue light. This contains the coordinates of the nearest Concord outpost along with star charts covering this arm of the galaxy and information about the member species of the Concord. I am breaking protocol by giving you this, but I believe it is time for humanity to take its place among the stars. He handed the device to Captain Martinez. We must continue our journey to our new home system, but I have requested that the Concord send official representatives to Earth. They should arrive within 6 of your months. Some of my people wish to remain as our ambassadors until then, if you will have them. We would be honored, Martinez replied, carefully taking the crystal device. Before departing, Admiral Kulvaran requested permission to broadcast a message to all of Earth. Standing before cameras that would transmit his image to every corner of the planet, he addressed humanity directly. People of Earth, You have shown the galaxy what it means to be truly civilized, not through technological achievement alone, but through compassion and courage. The stars are filled with wonders, but also dangers. As you venture further into space, remember what makes your species special. It is not your weapons or your machines, but your hearts and your ability to work together despite your differences. We will tell your story to every world we encounter. 3 days later, the massive Tellurian fleet departed the solar system. A small group of 50 Tellurians remained behind as the first official alien delegation to Earth. They brought knowledge, technology, and friendship, the beginning of a new era for humanity. In the months that followed, Earth changed rapidly. Using insights gained from Tellurian technology, human engineers developed more efficient spacecraft and power systems. The first official human ambassadorial vessel, the USS Unity, was built in record time and prepared for launch toward the conquered outpost. Captain Martinez was chosen to command this historic mission. As she walked through the ship during final preparations, she found Engineer Baker making adjustments to the new warp drive system. "How's it looking, Alan?" she asked. Baker grinned, looking up from his work. "It's a beautiful hybrid, Captain. Tellurian efficiency with human flexibility. This ship can go places and do things neither of our species could have managed alone." On the day of launch, the USS Unity prepared to leave Earth orbit. Its crew included the best scientists, diplomats, and engineers from around the world, along with 5 Tellurian advisors. Millions watched from Earth as the ship activated its new drive system. In her captain's chair, Martinez took a deep breath and gave the order, "Take us out." The Unity disappeared in a flash of light, beginning its journey to the conquered outpost. Humanity had taken its first step into a much larger universe. Throughout the galaxy, news spread quickly. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and volatile had saved millions of Tellurian lives through ingenuity and compassion. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. On distant worlds, conquered diplomats and leaders debated what this would mean. Some were alarmed by humanity's unexpected arrival on the galactic stage. Others were intrigued by reports of human creativity and adaptability. A few were excited by the possibility of fresh perspectives and new ideas. A senior Concord official, reviewing reports of the Tellurian rescue, summed up the situation to her colleagues. "For better or worse, the humans have arrived much sooner than we expected. They do not follow our rules. They do not think as we do. But perhaps that is exactly what our Concord needs after so many centuries of stability." As the USS Unity traveled through space toward its destination, Captain Martinez recorded a log. Entry: "We journey into the unknown, carrying the hopes of our entire world. We've learned that we are not alone in this vast universe. There are friends waiting to be made and wonders waiting to be discovered. Humanity's greatest adventure has just begun." The small blue-green world called Earth, once thought insignificant by the great powers of the galaxy, had announced its presence in the most human way possible, not through conquest or intimidation, but through an act of kindness that saved millions of lives, and the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter for it. The end.